And so you get to Taiwan, again,
Yeah.
a Black sister now living in Taiwan. You're having to figure out how to get around. How did you, I'm trying to wrap my head around this still, because how is it that you even find yourself knowing where to stay, knowing how to even to get groceries, to get food? Did you stay with someone just to get acclimated, or how did that process work?
Yeah, so after my cousin found out that I was getting hired, of course, I was like, hey, cousin, hey, his best friend, business partner, can I stay with you guys until, I get on my feet, I figure out the pay, I figure out where to go, how to get my own apartment, how to get to my own transportation. Can I just stay with you all? And they were like, yep, there's a room, we got you, pillows, sheets, towels, like, here's where you can go for X, Y, and Z. We're going to buy groceries on this day. Is there anything in particular you want? Basics, because in my mind, I'm still thinking American shopping. So I'm like Oreos or Doritos or whatever snacks that I was thinking about. And they would be like, yeah, so we don't have that. You're never going to find it here. So option B was what? So it was a lot of readjusting and learning what you can find here in Taiwan. So I'm very grateful to my cousin Patrick and his best friend Carl for letting me stay with them for the first, I want to say the first year I was here. Yeah, maybe the first 6 to 7 months I was here, I stayed with them.
Okay. And this is so interesting because I know we're going to talk about, and we're going to get to the rally that you are one of the founders and creators of launching in Taiwan. But
Yeah.
I want to make sure that we build the story, understanding that you are Black in Taiwan,
Yeah.
Black and abroad.
Yes.
And a lot of times when, it's already hard to get some of us, those of us who are Black, African Americans, to travel abroad outside of your common destinations. Yeah. And when you, as you mentioned earlier, it is not always like Taiwan is not on I consider myself a traveler. Taiwan is not on my list. That's why when you came and told me that you wanted to, no, not wanted to, that you were leaving to move there.
It was never I want to go. It was,
no.
Hey, so I made a decision,
and this is when I'm leaving. Yeah, this is when I'm leaving. So it's just very interesting to find yourself now here in Taiwan, and you are now, we're going to shift into the classroom and you show up on your first day. So you are Black and abroad in Taiwan to teach English as a second language.
Yeah.
What is that first day like? And you don't even know the language. You don't know Taiwan or Chinese.
My first day was overwhelming. It's our first day at school is typically a conference, and that conference consists of a lot of meetings with the Taiwanese side, right? So what happens is you kind of walk into this auditorium and there's a big projector, and because our school is Christian based, there's a lot of singing of hymns. There's a lot of reading.
Christian based in Taiwan?
Yes. I think via connection of Canada. And so there's a lot of reading of hymns, a lot of singing. And of course, I know the songs in English as soon as I hear the cadence and I hear the beat, but all the words are written in Chinese. So I'm just like, I can't read that, but off of memory, I can at least sing along, right?
So amazing.
Yeah, so then some of the meetings would take place, just giving updates about what happened last year, what we plan to do this year. And again, all of these conversations are happening in Chinese. And so I'm just sitting here just like twiddling my thumbs, like, I don't know what we're talking about. So if you want me to fill in, please someone explain it to me in the language I understand. After those sessions happen, the English department breaks off, and now we have our own kind of conference, and we talk about what to do. Here's the plan. Here's what you need to do to prepare. And it's very, very overwhelming because we do this within 2 days with the ability to just really prepare and get your classroom ready for maybe 1 day of a break, and then we start the following day. So if our conference is on a Thursday, Friday, that means Monday we may have a break, but Tuesday you're going to be face-to-face with kids. You're going to be meeting your ETT, who is your Taiwanese teacher that shares the classroom with you. Okay. So to tie it all up, I'm a homeroom teacher for a grade of students. I am with these students all day. I give them instructions.
What grade?
At that time, I was grade 5. I was in 5th grade. Age levels are similar. What is that? 10, 11 age range. But their English level is not truly grade 5 English level. I would say their English level is probably between a grade 3 and grade 4 by American standards. But they do just classify them as being grade 5 students.
Okay.
So on my first day, I'm standing in front of students and I'm just like, hi, everybody. Like, I don't know how receptive or how receptive they'll be to me as being a Black woman. But there is another Black woman on my team. She's Latina. And so I know that they've seen other Black teachers before, which does kind of put me at ease a little.
Okay. Now you're in the classroom.
Mm-hmm.
No past experience teaching kids.
None.
That is, I'm still like, that is just crazy.
Yeah. No, so really, I walk into the classroom and I pick up the book that we're using.
Okay.
Well, the first day is really kind of level setting. Hey, I'm teacher Stefani. I give them a PowerPoint presentation about who I am.
You're giving 5th graders PowerPoint presentations?
I am. You know, they got to learn at some point. So yes, I gave them a PowerPoint presentation about who I am, where I'm from, my brothers and sisters, things of this nature. And then I talked about rules of the classroom. Now that I've been doing this a little bit longer, my rules of the classroom have definitely improved. But, you know, I gave them a quick rundown of rules of the classroom, things that I needed them to do. 1, no Chinese while it's my time to teach. 2, you know, be helpful, be respectful of yourself and others, and help a sister out because I don't know what you're talking about if you don't say it in English. Yeah. Ask questions because I feel like asking questions is important. And as the year went on, I quickly learned how different that was from their teaching or the way that they've been educated on the Chinese perspective. And then I think I said have fun as my last rule, because I also feel that that's important to education, is just being able to have fun. So the actual first day of teaching, I went up there and winged it. I mean, it was like doing a presentation that you weren't fully prepared for, and you figure it out as you go. It was the best on-the-job teaching experience that I could ever have done.
So you said
I know you're like, what? You wing it? How do you wing teaching children? I'm not sure.
Another language. That's what's so crazy.
So I do think that there needs to be a base level understanding that the students do understand English. So by the time 5th grade, they have been learning English since 1st grade. Some students since kindergarten.
So this is something that's mandatory for them to even learn, as to where here it's in the States, it's an option. There it's mandatory.
Yes, they have a certain number of classes per the government, the MOE. They do have a certain number of classes that they have to take in English. But at our private school, it is required. Like 1st grade, it is required for them to at least have 2 English classes per day. One of them is a pure core class. The other one is a homework class where it's just kind of free form, get help with your homework kind of thing. And that does continue all the way up to grade 6 on the elementary side. Now, middle school and high school, I'm not sure of those parameters, but for us on the elementary side, yes, every student has at least 2 classes of pure English and have a homeroom English teacher. So during homeroom, it's, I need you to help me with lunch. Can you pick up the pail or pick up the broom from behind the cabinet. You know, these instructions are instructions that to me are more important because they're everyday things that you can learn and remember. Whereas some of the grammatical phrases, it's just kind of like, you may or may not use that ever again, but I have to teach it to you because it's in the book.
So this is very interesting. I even, the fact that they are taught, like this is a requirement, and the fact that they are learning another language outside of their native tongue is just, it positions them to be ahead so early. And that is just really, really fascinating to me. Now,
yeah, I was just going to say, I agree, but I think that because everyone here speaks Chinese, there's still that fallback on their native tongue.
Okay.
There really is no true enforcement outside of the classroom that English is valid or it is important. So this is where it teeters about how intricate or how helpful are the parents and how important do the students value this language that they have to learn and use.
Yeah. And then speaking of learning and using, I'm sure you have at this spirit through this experience, and now it's your third year.
This is actually my 4th teaching year. So next year will be 5th.
Okay. That time went by so fast. But so we're now, you're, soon to enter your 5th year being Black and abroad.
Mm-hmm.
Hasn't it been lonely at times? Like
it has. It has. I think the biggest part of being abroad, and I think that no one really tells you this, is I know it seems really shiny and really magical and very, oh, this seems to be the life. You are doing it. Like, you are doing the darn thing. And it's just kind of like, yes, I am, living my best life, while at the same time, there are downsides to it. You do miss your family. You do miss situations that, birthdays, important things, that times or dates or events that are important to you, you in some cases may or may not be able to celebrate them in the way that you're used to. So how do you adjust to that is the question now you have to ask yourself. Also, what if something important or significant happens to your family? How do you handle that? Because you do still have a commitment to maintain and be responsible for, while at the same time, you also still have family. And the parameters of working here is quite different than the parameters of working back in America. In America, you have a leave of absence, and you can, go to human resources and say, hey, this is what I need, and try and fill out some documents, and the government says you have to or you can't. And, the companies in America oblige. Well, you don't quite have those rights here in Taiwan or many other countries. And so how do you navigate that? How do you still make sure that you're okay? How do you identify that, maybe you are dealing with some depression now that you've left? And how do you go about helping yourself process through that? So these are all things that you really have to consider. The language, how do you navigate getting the things that you need? So these are all questions that you really have to ask yourself. The traveling part sounds great, right? But when can you travel? Holidays, like I explained, the holidays are not really the same. They say there's a holiday on Thursday, and then they'll also give you Friday off. But on the back end, they said, well, you got to come in on a Saturday, which in America, we're like, I ain't got to work on Saturday. What you talking? We don't work on Saturday.
And the holiday, meaning vacation or an actual holiday, is holiday. Like, we're just off.
Yes. Yeah. And so, it's all of these things. And now you have to talk about your friendship network. How do you get friends that are close to you that you can fully trust? How do you navigate that balance, right? Because I'm in a country where there are not a lot of Black people. There are Africans, there are people from, the Caribbean, there are people from America, but how do you navigate getting into those communities? How do you navigate meeting with them when all you do is leave home, go to work, come back home? because you're tired. Now you have to go out and explore to find the people that you need in order to create your own sense of community.
And what, in your experience, what would you have done different 5 years ago that you, or 4 years ago that you know now in regards to building? Because I believe we all need community.
Yeah.
We all need that. We need that circle around us. And as they, many will say, family, is not always those that share a bloodline. So, I mean,
Right.
and to be so far away and having so much life happening, and it's not like you can come home, or not like you're coming home every summer, or not even every summer, but, for every holiday or every big thing that happens.
Right.
What would you have done different to create community for yourself?
That's a tough question. A part of me wants to say I wouldn't do anything different because of how everything worked out. But at the same time, another side of me says I would probably have explored more. I think for me, moving here, there was a sense of fear, in the sense of the fear about getting out and just going to randomly explore things. First, the jet lag, the time conversion, and getting used to this schedule. What took a toll.
Yes, it's one day here, but you're already in the next day. And we don't realize our body is, we have an internal clock that is real.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, that took a toll, and getting used to that, I think probably took me about 2 full weeks, in the sense of, if I was a tourist, I would have maybe taken a day. But I think because I needed to get up every day and go to work, it took more of a toll. Instead of just being able to go home or stay in my hotel room and just sleep it off, like, I still had to work and function and be present for students. So it took a lot longer. So during that process, I think I would have preferred if I explored the city more, so I could just understand the land in which I was living in, even if I didn't see another Black person. It was just understanding the landscape in which I was living in, to get a better idea of, well, what is this store? Or getting used to seeing more of the Chinese symbols to identify patterns, right? Okay, when you see this symbol, that's a bookstore. When you go certain places and you start to see the patterns of certain symbols, you're like, that has to mean something. Not really sure what, but there has to be some commonality with this symbol. So how do we Google it? How do we figure out what is this commonality? So mental note can be made, and you can say, okay, next time you need a cell phone, find this symbol and go to this place.
Now, what would you say has been something that has been a disappointment being in Taiwan? Or not even being in Taiwan, just making the move from the United States to Taiwan?
Disappointment. That's tough. I think the biggest disappointment I would have is, I guess I could say this, the lack of communication back with people back at home. I don't know if disappointment is the appropriate word. It seems harsh, but I think that what just we as humans get into the habit of doing is out of sight, out of mind. And so just because people didn't see me physically in St. Louis, or at the meeting that I would have usually been at, or volunteering with the organization I would have usually been volunteering with, it was, oh, well, she's got to be doing great because she's living abroad and that's the life. And it's just kind of like, I'm doing fine. It's okay. But, just reaching out saying, hey, how you doing? Just having those regular nonchalant conversations, it's still welcome. I don't like small talk. It's one of the least favorite ways to have conversations for me. But if you're living oceans away, you know, sometimes you do have to just start that conversation with some small talk until you can get deeper into the conversation.
Right. And I can't even, let me say, I can't imagine being so far away, so disconnected physically
Yeah.
from what you know. I mean, it's so interesting because we are in the midst of two crises right now, which is COVID, and the other crisis is injustice. And we're going to get to that second part. But while we're in COVID, we are separated. We're locked
So
in our places, and we're like people are struggling to stay home, to not be around people, even though we're like, you know, this is like enough. I've heard so many people say, okay, enough with this already in 2020. Can we move past this? So can you imagine, like, that's just for this moment. It's been since what, March?
Yeah.
And so it's been several months, but you're talking about 5 years now, and to be like separated from what it is that we're craving, and you're still, what causes you to stay motivated and positive and in that good space when you don't hear from somebody, from a voice?
Not gonna lie, I'm not always in a good, motivated, happy space. And in those moments, I just have to be and allow myself to be human. And what that means, or what that usually looks like for me, is spending time in my apartment to process my feelings, to process, well, why do I feel that the way that I do? More recently, it's looked like me just talking to a therapist online. So my therapist is based in St. Louis. She's a Black woman, because she would understand the St. Louis nuances, even though she's from Chicago. She would understand some of the St. Louis nuances, the transactional conversations or the transactional relationships that you have to have in order to succeed in certain areas. Whereas for me, I'm more transformative. I believe in establishing a relationship so that we can grow, not so that you can get something from me and I can get something from you. I get it. We need it. I understand that it's valuable and needed, but how do we take it beyond that? And so talking with her has definitely helped so that I can process through my own personal feelings and thoughts. But then when I'm not doing that, it's really, how about I reach out, reach out and just try and touch someone. Sometimes I just call people on FaceTime and I'm like, hey, either they're going to answer or they're not going to answer. We're just going to take this chance and see how it goes. And if they care enough, then they respond back. Hey, I can't talk to you right now, or I'll call you later. And then they actually do that, right? Sometimes I think some people just say they're going to respond back, and it's just like days move on and they're like, oh, I kind of forgot, or something else came up. That out of sight, out of mind situation.
Yeah. So it's just interesting that, we, no matter where we are, still that sense of connection and connectivity is is really, really, really critical for us in our lives, and how we cannot not live without that. We're human beings. We were
born to connect.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree.
Yes. So you go through your process of motivating yourself. You just admitted at times it is not about you being motivated. It's about, hey, walking it through and being, I would say, standing tall in your truth at that moment. And that's okay. And I think it's very important. And I thank you for being vulnerable enough to share that with us, because a lot of us, we keep our capes on, especially those of us who are leading and living outside of the norm and coloring outside of the lines. Yes, other people will celebrate that, but there's a lot that comes along with that. A lot of, those unknown places. And as you turn those corners and you don't know what you're going to run into, that's why some people get stuck in being comfortable.
Yeah. It's not easy. Yeah. And I think that we say that, but I don't think that we really truly recognize what that actually means. And when we see people that we identify as shining or being someone who we want to strive to be, I don't think that we've also gone through the process of asking, hey, can I ask about some of the hard times? Because all we see is this great stuff that you're doing. We see you on the TV doing an interview, or we see, you know, all of your pictures that look pristine and you had a photographer take them. That's all great and cool. But at what point has anyone asked you, well, what made this process hard for you?
Yeah.
And then when that question is asked, are you being vulnerable enough to really, really answer it and not really caring how you'll be perceived after you answer that question? And for me, vulnerability is key. I can't be authentically myself if I'm not being vulnerable. And that takes strength. You know, vulnerability and strength are very tied. And being strong requires me to be vulnerable and say, no, this moment sucked because of I couldn't communicate with the driver. I really thought he was going to take me somewhere that he shouldn't have gone. You know, all of these things happened, even though it was still a successful taxi ride at the end. You know, we have to be able to be vulnerable in those times too.
Yeah. And it's so interesting. And that's why, you know, I tell people, be mindful of what you read, regardless what the source is, if it's not the actual source, pinning those words, because we have gotten into this place to where, you know, we have, as you said, the words you use was everything so bright and shiny. And we want some of that bright and shiny, but to get something bright and shiny, it has to go through a dull, dark, fiery even process. I mean, as they say, women, you know, diamonds are a girl's best friend, but what all does a diamond go through to get to the point of for the value and the beauty to shine through? It's still worth something when it's needing to be being gone through the fire. However, we want that end product, but we don't want that process. And it's all about the process.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. I mean, I would have been very, very happy living abroad without the fact of losing family members. You know what I mean? But again, I just feel as though for me, that was my process. That is what triggered me to truly, truly move forward with what I knew deep down inside I wanted to do. Now, does that mean that this is my life forever? No, I can very well come back home and jump back into human resources if I choose to, but this is the life.
That can never happen.
Not in the same way that it was before.
Because that's why I tell people, I'm like, I'm always like, I dare you to dare you to get uncomfortable just for a season. You will never be the same. Yes, it hurts, just like going to the gym. When we're like, okay, I need to go to the gym, but it hurts. And then it's a sacrifice. It's an inconvenience. But if you want the outcome, again, back to the process. There's a process. If you want results.
You have to get uncomfortable. You have to be uncomfortable. While at the same time, I think you also have to be very intentional about living through and truly processing through the process, the hard parts of it all. You know, like you were saying, some of the separation from being away from friends and family was very, very difficult. And so for me, it allowed me to recognize that I had no way to escape the feelings I had. And back at home,
we don't, this is so good because we don't stop long enough. Because what do? We go get something fly to dress up. We go get something nice, decent to drive. We're so busy and distracted.
Yeah.
We don't even realize we're showing up. We look good, but we're broken on the inside.
Yeah. And for me, I think the way that we buy things or the way that we move is very different for everyone, right? Some people are shopaholics. They decide to go buy something real fly. Some people are about material things and they want to go buy this house. They want to go buy this car. For me, it was about service. How can I go out and volunteer and give something to someone else who needs something more than I do at this moment? So I would be avoiding myself, avoiding the self-reflection or interflection that I needed to have. And I would be like, well, it's a community service event. I don't feel bad doing this. You know what I mean? So
That's
I would
very interesting.
Yes, I would go spend those 3-4 hours doing that. And then after that, you had lunch with the people you were hanging out with, and that continued the avoidance, right?
But again, I was going to say, but again, back to distracting, being distracted. Yeah.
But then when I moved here, I had no no other option but to pay attention and be in tune with it. Because if I wanted to go volunteer, what about the language? What are we gonna talk about? I don't know what you're saying. You don't know what I'm saying. We don't know what each other is saying, right? Then if I'm going out to travel somewhere, okay, again, the language is a barrier. So it allowed me to just kind of sit and be in that moment so that I could truly, truly process what I was avoiding. And I think that I was still able to avoid it a little bit. But now working through therapy, I'm not allowed to avoid it. Some of these things, some of these triggers, some of these issues I'm facing them with the help of my therapist. And I'm able to really notice when other triggers come up, how did I respond in that space that was different than how I responded when I was a child? And have to take success in my new response and be able to recognize, no, you were great. You used your voice. You stood tall. You didn't move. You didn't bend. You did everything you should have done. And that helps you improve through that childhood issue.
Wow. And I'm going to just take that, because talking about pushing through, finding your voice, using your voice, you have done just that, not only for yourself, but now you have gone up to Taiwan and just you're down there flipping over tables, making change. No, I'm just kidding.
I don't know about flipping tables now. You trying to get in trouble.
I'm so just joking. But just those who are tuning in, this is a Nick of Time segment powered by Sparkman Pathway to Careers and KSTL Jubilee 690 AM, housed in St. Louis, Missouri. And we are on with Stefanie Davis, talking about being Black and abroad. And also, we're going to shift the conversation now as she shares with us a little bit about her experience in launching a very powerful movement in Taiwan for Black lives.
Yeah.
Tell us a little, how in the world did you even begin this whole process? Just kind of tell us what it is and what you did.
Well, I mean, as Black people, we're not ignorant to the injustices that happen back in America. As a Black American, we're not ignorant to it. I'm not fully aware of what happens in the UK or what happens in Africa or South America or other countries, but America, I'm very, very tuned in with. So around the time, basically watching the video of George Floyd, right? That did something in me because for me, it felt very, very personal, even though I didn't know him. Because understanding that it all started due to a counterfeit $20 bill registered to me by saying it could have been me. I don't have one of those little markers that they use to see if it's counterfeit or not. I would have literally taken the $20 bill of change that I got from point A, taking it to point B, trying to purchase something. And if the event escalated with me in the way that it escalated with him, I would feel some kind of way as well. And so for that to happen the way that it did for 8 minutes and 46 seconds is just unbelievable. just unbelievable. And so it hurt. That really, all the other ones hurt, don't get me wrong, but that one really, really had me messed up. So there's actually a community of Black people here in Taiwan. And so I'm one of the admins over Brothers and Sisters of Taiwan. And my friend started that
whole community.
Yeah, so Facebook group. Yeah. So my friend, she started that. I met her. She was starting that group, and she has now gone back to America. She's a professor in Oregon. And so she was like, hey, Stefani, when she left, I want you to continue to admin this group. So I've been doing that to create a sense of community. And when that happened, I just said, hey, would people be okay with selling t-shirts, or if I made some t-shirts, buying them so we can send the proceeds back to Black Lives Matter in America, or back to any other organization? It could never matter to me. It's not my money. I just want to be able to do something to help because I'm not physically there, right? Okay. So people started responding. One person who's a friend of mine, KG, he reached out and said, hey, I was thinking about a protest. I was going to hit you up about it too. And I was like, okay, that's cool. So I went ahead and messaged him. And then another friend, she messaged both of us and was like, yeah, let's really get something going. And then when that happened, I came to work. My boss stepped to me and said, hey, so I saw your post. I want you to teach race in your classroom, take some pictures so we can post it for the parents at our school. And then I also have some other ideas about the t-shirt thing. And I'm like, okay, so that's...
Pump the brakes. They wanted you to teach a class because of the post they saw you made on Facebook?
Yeah, so yeah, she wanted me to talk about race in my classroom.
To the Taiwanese.
Yes. So I was like, I mean, I was beginning to prepare something. I just wanted to bring it to you to make sure it was okay before I did it. But since you're telling me it's okay, done. I got it. I can do this. So that's 3 people now. And as we're talking about ideas, of course, I have my cousin who's really great with marketing and digital tools. So I said, Patrick, is there any way you'd be willing to help? And he's like, for sure. So what this all triggered in all of us was finding a way to help back in America, even though we knew that we were not physically there. As time progressed, it turned into a rally, and it just continued to grow bigger and bigger than really what I planned for it to be.
What was the plan though? What was the plan? What was the original?
The original plan was to sell t-shirts. That's all I wanted to do. I mean, we did sell t-shirts while we also began to organize for a solidarity rally. And we called it a rally on purpose because we didn't want to use the word protest. Protest has now been given a negative connotation according to the new due to media. And we are also not protesting anything in Taiwan. We're not protesting Taiwan's policies. We're not protesting the government in Taiwan. We are really coming together in solidarity with friends and family members back at home to stop the injustices against Black and brown bodies. That is our solidarity rally. And that's what it was about, was sharing the experience of what it's like to be a Black person, sharing the stories of people who have been murdered and or killed, so that it can become relatable to the people that were there, which happen to be other foreigners of African descent or non-African descent, as well as locals. Some local schools brought some of their students, some Kaohsiung American schools brought their students, and they all came to the rally with some of their own posters, and the kids were there ready to help. Like, hey, we think this is wrong. How can we help you prepare or set up? Is there anything you want us to do? And it was just really a big outpouring of support, which was larger than I think we all planned for it to be.
Wow. And so then you end up with this diverse group who show up for the rally. Yeah. All and diverse in many facets. Mm-hmm. And you are still in your mind like, okay, we just wanted to sell some t-shirts, give back to the United States to support Black Lives Matter. Now back to the t-shirts. How many t-shirts did you end up selling?
we were done with 400 and people still wanted more. People still wanted more after all 400 were gone. Thankfully, a donor paid for all of the t-shirts up front. So every donation we received, all that money is proceeds. So there's no expense to this t-shirt due to a donor, which a lot of donors just stepped up and kicked in. And, you know, one of the founding members who was responsible for donations, she did a fantabulous job with donations. Like, I once upon a time asked her, I said, you got to tell me how you doing this, because if it was me, I'd be on somebody's stripper pole trying to figure out how to get these dollars.
Oh my God, you're so crazy.
It was a joke, but I was like, this money is coming in, so, you know, again, I can't thank you enough.
But then reminding those who are listening, you are in Taiwan.
Yeah.
Preparing to have a rally.
Mm-hmm.
You don't speak the language.
No.
You can speak, every now and then you'll slide a word out. However, you don't.
Well, don't get the
See what I'm saying? And what did you just say?
I said I know a little bit of Chinese.
Okay. Well, with that, how is it that you coordinated? Because I had a chance to scroll through some of the photos, which are absolutely amazing, because it's the way you talked about it initially. It was just, oh, I'm going to do a little something just to get back. And it turned into hundreds of people. How did you prepare and then coordinate, considering you don't speak the language? And I'm sure there was a whole bunch of, you couldn't just go and set up somewhere.
Yeah. Well, the team I was working with, the team of Americans, Black Americans, we did a lot of the planning and trying to figure out what we needed, a lot of the decision making, how did we want this rally to look? While also at the same time, of course, we need permits and we need legal aspect to host a rally of this sort in a public space. And so a person from our team, she contacted one of the local organizations here, and they were like, yeah, we're more than happy to help you with the legal permit aspect of things. And so they chimed in and, you know, put down deposits and applied for the permit and, you know, got all of the paperwork ready to go so that we would be able to execute this rally. They were also very, very, very helpful with, you know, keeping us on time, in the sense of, have we gotten documents or information sent into the translator? Because it was important for us to have a translator. We didn't want to just have this English only rally. We did think that it was important for us to also have a Chinese element too, so that attendees would understand what was being said.
Yeah. Looking back, what one thing would you have done different?
Woo, child, I would not have done this in 2 weeks. We started it on a Monday and we executed it on the Saturday after that. I would never suggest doing a rally in 2 weeks while you have a full-time job. Never. That is one thing I would do differently. I would never do it in 2 weeks ever again.
What would you say was a highlight of the experience? Because you talk about, and then highlight of the experience, and then a little bit about your team, the Americans you worked with.
Highlight of my experience, I would definitely say that moment when the stage was erected and we had this banner behind us of all the names of people who have been murdered, in solidarity with them, and just standing on that stage, looking out as the crowd continued to grow, was just breathtaking. It was almost unbelievable. Like, where did all of these people come from? In a good way, not in a bad way, but just like, this is historic. Like, we made history in Taiwan. Yeah. Like, we literally made history. And I don't think that until that moment, we truly understood the history we were making. And that's really what we did. Mm-hmm. And so I think that was the highlight of the moment. After that, I was tired. I was ready to go to sleep. I just wanted something to eat. But at the moment of beginning the rally and standing on that stage with everyone, it was very unbelievable and breathtaking.
But tell me a little bit about the team that you worked with to make all this amazingness happen.
Yeah, so the Black Americans that were on the team, so it was myself, it was Erica Roman, it was KG, it was Toy, and then also my cousin Patrick Springer. And so it was great. I mean, it was challenging, it was tough because we all, for the most part, we all worked. And so there were things that needed to be done in some cases right now. And it was challenging because we all had different schedules and we were able to chime in when and where we could. But of course, you know, with something that we're planning so big and so quickly, for me, I know I definitely slacked off at work. I wasn't attentive to my students as much as I should have been. And my books weren't checked as frequently as they should have been. But I told my boss, who was Erica, and she said, I completely understand. Just don't let it get too bad. And I was upfront with my students. Hey, students, I'm planning this thing. I want you to know that I'm physically here, but I may not be as attentive. Don't forget my rules because I will come find you if I have to. But for now, you're kind of getting a break. Enjoy it. Yeah. I will come back and we'll have everything back in order very soon. Yes.
So what do you hope? What's your hope for those who attended to walk away with?
Well, I think really our biggest hope was people walked away with a level of empathy and understanding that there are Black people that live on this earth and that do live in Taiwan. So despite those desires to go up to them randomly and touch their skin to say, oh, it doesn't come off. Like, no, it doesn't. Or to go up to them and just want to touch their hair. Ooh, Tofa, curly hair. Like, no, don't do these things. Have empathy and understanding that we are real people and there are more of us than LeBron James that you see on TV or anyone that you watch on TV. There are actual real people here in Taiwan. But then also the level of empathy related to even though we're not in America, the things that are happening still hurt. And we may not give us some grace. And if you really do have some Black friends, check in with them to see how they're doing. Because this does hurt and it is triggering every time we see a new video or we hear a new audio of someone suffering as they're being hurt.
Yeah. What would you say as a leader, and we talk about excellence in accidents platform. What ray of excellence would you say has radiated from you having now planned this, literally, I mean, a first for Taiwan, history making? This goes down in somebody's book, and they will never be the same. What's the excellence that radiates from you from this experience?
I think for me, it's really on a personal excellence perspective, standing strong, standing tall, using my voice and not being swayed to do something that either other people wanted me to do or they had a perspective that I should do. I wanted to definitely make sure that whatever decisions we as the Black Americans wanted to make related to the rally were executed. And we had the opportunity to decide those as a collective first and foremost, and then needed to give that information to whoever needed it, be it the stage director, be it the other team helping us stay organized during the day, be it the volunteers. They needed to hear that information after we made our decision, right? And so for me, that's the level of excellence that I stood in, standing in my truth and staying strong with what I believed was right. As it relates to hiccups and or mistakes, I would say maybe more communication. I'm not really sure. I teeter on that. I'm not really sure if that was really a hiccup. But I feel like communication is always something that we as humans can improve on. So if I was to say that there were any hiccups or mistakes, I would say maybe having more communication, but also just being mindful that I am still working during the day. And so I just cannot be as available as someone who is not working during the day.
Yeah. Now, what do you say now, kind of bringing our conversation full circle, Black and abroad?
Yeah.
And now you've made history.
Crazy.
Where's Stefanie Davis now in her, because it's been a journey, you being there for the almost 5 years, and what growth do we want to celebrate at this very moment?
The growth, I would say, is really becoming more and more comfortable in finding my voice. And for some people who know me, they're going to say, that sounds weird coming from you, because you've always been very confident in what it is that you have to say. And I don't disagree with that perspective. I do agree with that. However, I think that through this experience, I was challenged to truly, truly stand strong and to really, really stick to what it is that I believed in. And again, just recognizing that some of that was a trigger from what I experienced in my past. Mm-hmm. And my ability to stand strong today was me taking a stance and unlearning the issues that I dealt with, the traumas that I dealt with as a kid, and validating myself to be able to say, no, this is your voice, this is your opinion, and it's okay, regardless of if anyone else validates you or if anyone else takes responsibility for their faults. Your stance, your belief, your words are strong enough, and you have to find that validation within self to know that you did everything that I was supposed to do.
I love that. I love that. I feel that. I stand behind that, in front of it, all around it. What's next? Because this can't be it. What's next?
Well, first is sleep. So that is what this Dragon Boat Festival holiday is all about. I'm going to go back to sleep and regain some energy, because it was draining. Working with students is draining on an emotional front, because fifth grade students, they're going through chemical changes. They're still very emotional. They're little people, and they're trying to figure it out, while planning a huge event was very emotional too. So I have to rebalance. I have to practice some mindfulness to get back to self. Now, after that, it's really about handling the business of the donations that have been received, and how do we distribute funds the way that we said that we would, to keep and honor our word. And then after that is identifying, how do we proceed forward? What does our group look like as far as members, and what does our group look like as far as mission, vision, and plan here in Taiwan? How do we ensure that our time and effectiveness as it relates to partnering, collaborating, and or educating local people about the injustices that we deal with, and about just us being Black people? How do we tie that in so that we can gain further support and further understanding, and really debunk some of the stereotypes about Black people?
Yeah. There are individuals who are listening. They may not want to be Black and abroad. They may not want to be one, regardless of race, to pack up and move somewhere or learn a different language. But they are on the brink of taking a risk. What can you tell them in the nick of time to push them over the edge regarding taking a risk and being curious.
What do you have to lose? What do you have to lose? If life has been as normal as you want it to be, then at what point in time in your future, either with your children or with, your future nieces and nephews, with whoever you value, what do you want to tell them about your life and how you lived it? So at the end of the day, what do you have to lose? Because you can always go home. You can always go back to normal. You can always go to comfortability if you feel that you're tired or this is not the thing for you. But you'll never know that if you never try.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you're pushing me as well at this very moment. Actually, this whole experience, right? I crack up because I'm like, in the curiosity and in the taking risk, sometimes it comes. No, most times it comes unexpected. And even tonight, I applaud you. I celebrate you. I hold you and cover you in prayer at all times, consistently. This very moment is just impromptu. We just said, hey, let's just make it happen. And so, yes, I could have had a little tizzy, a little fit, because everybody knows I'm such a girl. But I'm like, no, let's do it. Let's go just as is. Let's make this happen. But I'm learning when you want something and you're operating in your call, all the fluff doesn't matter. And as you said, what's holding you back? Why allow it to hold you back, especially when you have a moment and an opportunity? You have to be ready. You have to be prepared. And it is not about perfection.
No.
It's about purpose and preparation.
I think it's also about showing up and doing your best. Because was the rally, everything about the rally perfect? No, it wasn't. But we did our best. We did our best with the time that we had. We all pulled in late nights, early mornings. We all did these things. And we know that we weren't all perfect, but it's not about perfection, because people walked away feeling good. They had a different level of understanding after the rally. And our imperfections were still what people needed.
Yeah. Oh, I love that.
Man, that's a word, ain't it though?
Yes.
Ain't it though?
Seriously, I'm gonna have to steal that, but I'll credit you. But it's true. But sometimes the person who needed the imperfection was self.
Yeah.
And that's why I brought up, I'm like, this impromptu, because for me, it's like right now is a somewhat imperfected moment, but it's everything that needed to happen. One, it was for me to prove, do you want this? Do you want to do, there's something underlying here with our conversation. And I'm like, then it doesn't matter to have all that other stuff. Make it happen. And so I'm learning, you can very well try to prepare and be so perfect at something that you miss the opportunity. And the opportunity passes you by because you were distracted on the stuff that didn't matter.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I'm just grateful for this moment. I thank you so much, Stefani. Those who are listening, I know you have been blessed by hearing her experience about being Black and abroad and being one of the organizers of BLSGI, the peaceful rally that was held in Taiwan. They have made history, and we have so much more to talk about, but we're going to do that off air because this was our scheduled girlfriend time. And so we're going to hop off this, and then we're going to go ahead and continue our conversation. But I want to thank everybody for joining in for this impromptu, but yet, as she says, imperfect. We needed this imperfect moment to show the perfection and the beauty that of the calls that God has placed on both of our lives. And I thank you for listening. You're listening to Nick of Time. And don't forget that everything that you need to do what you're trying to do. You already have it. Just
Yeah.
tap into it. Don't forget to smile, because why? You have already won. Until
Mm.
next time, be blessed.
Oh, thanks, sis. That was crazy. That was
So,
crazy.
so proud of you.
Girl, I really haven't done anything.